In today's video, we have the latest NHL trade rumors from around the league. Today, we focus on Montreal Canadiens, the Philadelphia Flyers, as well as the New York Islanders. We get news from the NHL waiver wire, several injury updates, some players being demoted and promoted within the NHL AHL landscape. We have a Flames prospect in legal trouble as well. We'll discuss all that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot to cover here today. I want to kick things off with some not so great news regarding a Calgary Flames prospect who finds himself facing some pretty serious allegations and some legal issues. Flames prospect Topi Ronnie, who is a 2022 draft pick. He was taken 59th overall from Finland. The prospect is facing allegations of rape. Now he's taken a leave from his Finnish team. This incident where this supposedly happened apparently happened more than 2 years ago. So we're in 2023. So that was at the very earliest 2021 when we just know it was more than 2 years. So I don't know exactly when, but at the latest 2021, I'm guessing it's probably more than 2 years, but not quite 3, which is why they chose those words. Now, the Calgary Flames did put out a statement today regarding their prospect, just acknowledging that the incident is that they're aware of it, and that they became aware of this incident after they drafted him, not before, and that they were going to let the legal process kind of take its course. Essentially, they would be making any further comments on the situation. Now, if this incident happened back in 2021, I guess my question, and this is the first I've heard of this incident, so I don't know. It just sounds like, from what I've seen some people saying, is that this might not have been a situation that they probably should have known about. So I just wonder how they didn't know about it. I just hope there's not a trend, because we've seen with the Flames, I mean, we saw a situation. I guess they have different management now, so that even if there was a trend, it's different. But when Brad Treliving was the GM, we saw him have to do removal of a head coach with Bill Peters because of an incident that had happened. Of course, the racially motivated incident. We all probably know him. Sure, if you don't know, you can Google the Bill Peters, Akeem Alou situation. But, it just makes you wonder what kind of due diligence is being done on some of these situations, and why. Like, I know when you heard about the Montreal Canadiens drafting Logan Mailloux, for example, like that was a huge controversy. I don't know. Maybe they're completely just, this is a situation that flew under the radar and they didn't know. I mean, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I just wonder how it just seems, from what I've read, that some kind of knew about this and some didn't. So at the end of the day, this prospect is facing some pretty serious allegations. I guess if he's determined to be innocent, there's no reason why he can't resume his career, go back to his Finnish team and continue developing. But if he is found guilty, then certainly there'll be some pretty serious consequences for that. So clearly, we'll have to kind of wait for updates on the story. At this point, like I said, he's taken the lead from the team, and he kind of wanted to focus on defending himself. So we'll see what comes from this. But some unfortunate news regarding the Flames prospect there. Now, there is a news video out from earlier today as well with a few quick updates. I'll just quickly recap what we talked about there. I will link the video up in the YouTube cards in case you haven't already missed it or haven't had a chance to watch it, sorry. But Senators defenseman Artem Zub is out injured. He's going to miss Saturday's game because of the puck or stick from Ovechkin that came up, got him in the ear on their game yesterday. We have Mark Stahl from the Flyers. That was injured ribs, 4 to 6 weeks. He's going to be out. Robbie Fabry of the Red Wings, he's out for about a month with a lower body injury, but it's not related to his previous knee injuries, which is good news. Predators forward Cody Glass and Kraken forward Jayden Schwartz both left their respective games last night due to injuries. Haven't been able to see any updates on those players yet to see if they're going to be out for any length of time, but some guys that you might be seeing miss time because of that. And the Sabres have announced that young forward Zach Benson and rookie goalie Devin Levi are both considered day-to-day with some sort of minor injuries. They didn't really go into detail, but they're not going to likely suit up for at least one game anyway. So we'll see where that goes. We also saw Ducks forward Leo Carlsson, the number 2 pick in the 23 NHL draft, make his NHL debut and score his first NHL goal last night. It was a nice shot on a feed from Troy Terry. So that's good to see as well. So we've seen the top 2 picks now get their first NHL goals. The number 3 pick, Adam Fantilli, doesn't have his first goal yet, but he does have his first point, registering an assist here so far. It's going to be a very interesting run to the Calder Trophy this year. All kinds of great young rookies getting into the league. The St. Louis Blues also announced that they're inducting 3 names into their St. Louis Blues Hall of Fame, and that includes Keith Tkachuk, Mike Liut, former goaltender and player agent, and the late Pavel Demitra. So Blues Hall of Fame will be taking place January the 19th as they take on and host the Washington Capitals. There is a video on social media. Keith Tkachuk actually was able to get the news from his boys, obviously before the season started, before they went to their respective training camps. These players were already aware of the fact that they were selected, and Brady and Matthew Tkachuk they made a video sharing the news here with their dad, which was kind of fun to watch as well, and a little bit emotional for Keith as well, especially getting inducted with his buddy Pavel Demitra. Now, some other news as well. The Maple Leafs today recalled forward Pontus Holmberg, and they've demoted Simon Benoit. It looks, based on their line rushes from practice this morning, it looks like Fraser Minten might be a healthy scratch. It's hard to say if he'll suit up in the next game or not. There was some concern about Tyler Bertuzzi with a little bit banged up, but it seems like he's going to play. I don't think he's going to miss any time, so therefore it's not quite clear if Minton's coming out and Holmberg's going in, or if Holmberg will just remain with the club as an extra forward, just in case, so to speak. But one move there. The Senators today also recalled Jacob Bernard-Docker to replace Artem Zub on the roster after getting the news from the NHL waiver wire that forward Zach MacEwen had indeed cleared, so he can be demoted to Belleville. The Penguins also got word that Jansen Harkins cleared and Radim Simic in San Jose also cleared. They were all on waivers yesterday, so they can all be reassigned. And then today on waivers, we found out that the Columbus Blue Jackets placed former first-rounder and speedster Liam Foudy on waivers. So I would not be shocked if a team takes a chance on him. I mentioned earlier in the video, but I wonder if a team that's maybe not real, happy with their center depth, like Boston, might take a chance. Now, I know Boston, they've had a good start to the campaign. I don't think they're by no means are they panicking, but I think, they have to wonder how long Matthew Poitras is going to stick around. Do they need a backup option or what have you? So I wonder about them. And there's obviously some teams going through rebuilds that are, very interested in stockpiling talent, especially a player like Foudy who might benefit from a fresh start anyway. So we'll have to see. We'll find out at 2 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow if Foudy clears or if he's been picked up. And the Jackets also returned Jordan Dumais, one of their top prospects, back to the Halifax Mooseheads. Actually, that he must have already found out about it at least a day ahead, because he's already arrived in Halifax and is playing for the Mooseheads tonight. So I already seen that on social media earlier. So Dumais back in the queue with the Halifax Mooseheads. Now, on to today's trade rumor section of the video. A couple of players I want to take a look at. These are all new things today. Oliver Wahlstrom, a New York Islanders forward, of course, former first rounder. He's been scratched the first 3 games of the season, and they're starting to wonder if it might be time for a fresh start. There's been some speculation. There was an article in the Hockey News and other Islanders reporters just kind of talking about his season so far and the fact that he can't get in the lineup. And it just makes you wonder if it's going to be getting to that point of a trade. Wahlstrom actually started to make good progress last year, had a good start to his season, and then he resulted in getting an injury and ended up being out for the rest of the year. So that certainly derailed things. And then obviously coming into training camp this year, he seemed to be pretty motivated. I've seen comments from him through interviews saying that my season or my off season basically started in December. I'm kind of coming in with a different attitude, mindset, like a effort approach, that I'm just going to come in and give her and make the best of this. And as much as he had extra time to prepare and train and all those things, he still didn't contribute and participate well in the games. Like the production just wasn't there. Coaches don't seem to be pleased with his preseason results, and he was a healthy scratch to start the season. So it really does make you wonder. After all this time, we saw the same thing with Kiefer Bellows. He ran his course, kept getting chances and chances and chances. Eventually, they had to put him through waivers, and Wahlstrom's at a point now, too, that he can't just go to the minors. He would need to go through waivers to be reassigned. I don't know if he'd get picked up. I mean, you would think maybe, but at the same time, it's hard to say with any kind of certainty. But at this point, most teams are, eager to find ways to free up cap space, roster spots, etc. I wondered especially that third line with Pajot, with Zach Parise not being there this year. I wondered if Wahlstrom might, be able to grab and secure a spot. But, they brought in Julien Gauthier to compete with. He's obviously getting playing time over Wahlstrom. They picked up Pierre Engvall late last year and then signed him to an extension. So that certainly, took a spot there too. And, Wahlstrom's just found himself kind of being the extra guy. So I wonder at what point Lou might pull the trigger here and see if he can't find a fresh start for Wahlstrom. I mean, they never did trade Kiefer Bellows. In my opinion, they hung on to Bellows too long, and his value just kept dropping, and to get to the point that they couldn't get a return, eventually got picked up on waivers. They're not going to want to do the same thing with a former first-rounder Wahlstrom as well. You would think that while he still has some value left, that maybe it's time for a trade. Get something else in return that maybe you can work with and squeeze into your roster. We'll see, but Wahlstrom's future certainly a little cloudy after not starting the season the way things were hoping for. The4thperiod.com and Dave Pagnotta are talking about Morgan Frost, who's in a similar boat. Morgan Frost has been a healthy scratch a couple times for the Philadelphia Flyers. He had a breakthrough year last year in Philly. Of course, last year was a unique year for the Flyers. Obviously, they were quite low in the standings. But, they had a lot of openings, and they had a lot of veteran players that were not there. I mean, Sean Couturier wasn't there. Obviously, Cam Atkinson wasn't playing. And some other guys that were there had, a lot of injuries and things. Like, you saw a big opportunity for some guys to really step up their game last year. Frost being one of them, Tippett being one of them. Wade Allison, like some of these guys, Tyson Forster, like there's a lot of them that made big strides because they get opportunities that they may not have had otherwise. And a lot of them made the best of it. But coming into this year, I thought Frost, after getting a reasonable short-term deal, that he would be a bigger part of the team this year. But Tortorella doesn't really see that. I mean, it's not like they did get some veterans back. So, like, obviously having Couturier back and having Atkinson back takes some spots for sure. But I don't know. It's just hard to imagine. So Pagnotta was talking about how they actually did dangle Frost as trade bait in the offseason. They never really found a deal that they liked, obviously, so they signed him, and they get moved along here on a short-term deal, see how things progress. But there were some trade conversations around this player. He mentions teams like Montreal and Ottawa, who at least had some conversations. Doesn't seem to indicate that things ever really got close or serious, but the Flyers were open to it for sure, had some conversations, obviously never found a deal that they really liked and never pulled the trigger. But again, you have to wonder, again, being a healthy scratch, at what point not only is the team going to be like, well, maybe he's a spare part, we could use the cap space, maybe we find a deal for him, or at the same time you got to wonder at what point they're going to start getting calls saying, hey, I noticed you have this guy that's not playing. What are you willing to do on a trade? And conversations will kind of reignite, re-pick up from the offseason. Maybe some of those teams that were interested, pick up the phone and call Danny Briere again and find out what it's going to take, and maybe they figure something out. So we'll see. Now, there's still teams kind of hoarding goaltenders as well. There's 4 teams, I believe, that have a third goalie on the roster. And I know John Cooper, the head coach of the Lightning, recently made a comment that it's probably because of them. He feels that teams are hoarding goalies because they're afraid the Lightning are going to take one. But at the same time, the Lightning have had options. Now, of course, they've also had a poor start to their season. I know Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick talked about the Lightning on the podcast. Just wondering, what are the odds that they go out and make a move here? Jeff Merrick did make comments on observation that which kind of makes sense in a way because of the way the teams were playing and schedules and travel. Might not have been anything really to it, but there was a large contingent of Calgary Flames management watching the Lightning and wondered if maybe they had been discussing a Dan Vladar trade. We know that Vladar is certainly available on the market. The Flames would have really liked to get Dustin Wolf into the NHL. The Lightning would probably have a tricky time making that happen given the cap situation. Right now they're fine, but when Vasilevsky comes back to activate him, it would be challenging for sure. So they'd have to have a decent amount of money going out, and they may not really have a contract that fits the bill that they really want to do that with. But I can see why there'd be interest for sure. Now, maybe they have to get creative on that. I don't know if the Flames would eat a little bit of money or not. There's things you can do to try to massage it and make it work. But at the end of the day, we know that, there's certainly, goalies out there to be had. But Jimmy Murphy talks about the fact that he feels that there's teams that have been contacting Montreal about Caden Primo. He mentions the Kings and the Sharks specifically. I kind of wonder about Tampa too. I mean, obviously, we know the situation they're in. Obviously, Jonas Johansson and Matt Tompkins so far have not been getting it done. The latest update on Vasilevsky that he's on pace for probably an early December return. So that's a lot of games. They could be 23 to 25 games into the season by the time Vasi comes back. If they have a sub 500 record and are by that point, let's say they're even 4 to 6 points out of the playoffs, that's probably a big enough gap that you can't overcome it, at least most of the time. So it's certainly tough, but our teams calling Montreal and Primo, it certainly appears to be the case. I mean, I would wonder that these teams are not going to carry 3 goalies for too long because it's not good for the player. You need to get the player playing, but obviously they'd rather work out a trade than lose the player for nothing on waivers. But I mean, you've got Alex Lyon in Detroit not seeing the ice. You've got obviously Primo, in Montreal. You got Vladar in Calgary. There's certainly, and there's a couple others as well. The teams that they have a third goalie that's 3 goalie system that's just not really working out. So I mean, if you're Montreal, do you trade Caden Primo? Are you confident that you have another goalie beyond Sam Montembeault that might be in your system that could be the future goalie, the starting goalie for your team? I don't know for sure. I mean, if you feel like confident that he's there, then maybe you take the chance. It depends on what the trade return is. But, I don't know that there's a huge interest in Primo. But, I can see the teams out west for sure having interest. LA doesn't make a ton of sense to me. They have Cam Talbot. They have Phoenix Copley. I don't know. I mean, to me, if they're going to make a move for a goalie, it's going to be more of a starter, like a proven starter. Whereas San Jose, I can see having interest more for future because they're rebuilding, where the Kings are trying to win now. So I don't know that LA makes a lot of sense there. Tampa could use him as a stopgap if they feel he's better than Johansson or Tompkins. At the same time, like I said, though, there could be other names out there they might be talking to, like Vladar. But either way, Primo and the Habs, they're getting calls for sure, according to Jimmy Murphy. And I do wonder if it's just a matter of time before we see some goalie movement amongst the teams that are hoarding a third goaltender. At some point, it's important for these guys to play. So let me know what you think on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.